Call this meeting of the Northeast Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Item 2, presentation. A, Internal Audit Department Quarterly Board Update. Ms. Shoesmith.
Good evening.
Sorry, before you.
Yes, sir.
The time is 5:32.
Yes, sir. Good evening, President Byer, members of the board, executive staff, Dr. Micah. Tonight I'm here to present my quarterly update for the audit work that is my team and I have conducted since our last time that we met. It was back in December 9th. I know we've had some scheduling conflicts and busy agendas, so I appreciate you getting me on the agenda this time to get in front of you. So we have about 4.5 months worth of work to present in front of you. Over the past 4.5 months, my team and I have completed 5 audits, as well as 1 advisory project, and my team completed the last of our campus visits. So in the last 4 months, we did 49 campus visits. That completes our goal to attend every campus and do those visits. So we can speak about that. And in addition, we had 2 hotline complaints that I can speak to if we choose to. So I think you have your agenda there in front of you. I have kind of notations, as I do in the past, about some that, depending on questions, may need to be in executive session, but I think we can tackle most of it here in open session. And I'm happy to, I don't know if you want to just start with the first one and go work our way through.
Yeah, I think if we just start
Sure.
Start at the top,
Sure.
and then as people, and please, as I have a sense that there might be some questions that we'll have
Sure.
to discuss in executive
I can make a
session.
note.
But if we start getting in there with any questions, please stop
Yes, sir.
us
Yes, sir. Of
and
course.
remind us.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, so the first one we have on the list was completed back in December, Roosevelt High School campus audit. I don't know if you have any questions you'd like to discuss on that one.
I have one
Yes, ma'am.
question. Did we do a Roosevelt audit in 2023, the prior year?
No,
Was there
ma'am.
one?
Roosevelt has not had a full campus audit, I believe, in 4 years. So, yeah, it
Okay.
hasn't been looked at in a bit.
I couldn't find it in my notes. That's what I
Oh,
thought.
sure. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Yeah, they were due. They were audited. There was no change in key personnel. This was truly a high school audit that just in the rotation, it was their turn.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I know of one question that was posed, if there's something that we need to talk about in executive session, because there are some things specific to personnel. So I think that's one that maybe would hold.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right, shall I move to the next one?
Yeah.
Okay. Next is that advisory project, the annual construction rates, something that my department has historically provided this advisory service for our construction management department. I have started to institute just a simple memo, an advisory memo, to report to you and to the field all the work that we do in the department. So I don't know if it's a pretty standard thing that we do. I don't know if there's any questions there.
Any questions?
Okay. All right. Third in line is our audit of the Northeast Educational Foundation to include Partners in Education, which is the department partner, if you would, within NEISD. So we did a review of that.
And just for clarification, that one is required every year? Or no?
This is separate from this is separate from the audit that NEIF does on their own that is required.
Right.
Yes, so this was an independent audit done by us apart from what is required for them.
Okay. And do you recall the last time that the internal audit group audited them?
I have been here 12 years and they have not been fully reviewed in that time frame. The MOU began, our partnership began in 2017, and so that's why I went back 8 years. I essentially captured the entire term of that MOU and did a full review of the relationship, if you would.
Okay, thank you.
So I think it's the first time. No other specific questions out here on that one. Okay. Next, I have Churchill High School. This was due to a key personnel change, is what their bookkeeper changed mid-year. And so this review, once we get into the middle of the school year, audit work gets to be a little tricky because we want to look at the most recent data we can. So sometimes we end up looking at 2 school years worth of data. We shift, it spans over. So that was the case here. This one looked at partially a historical bookkeeper's work and the work of that campus, and then partially the new bookkeeper. So I did my best to delineate that throughout the report for you.
Oh,
Yes, ma'am?
this may be a back there question.
Sure.
But on the fundraiser findings, like, are we
For the documentation that was
Yeah.
not obtained, essentially?
right? Just to, I guess, do they know where to find that stuff, or?
I'll say yes. That is a more common finding that we see a lot with high schools. Crowdsourcing, hopefully, I'm happy to kind of fully define that and what it looks like for us. Excuse me. Crowdsource fundraising is like you think of GoFundMe, big things like that. We don't use GoFundMe specifically. There's other vendors that are approved. But more and more, that's the wave of the future of how a lot of fundraisers are conducted compared to selling cookie dough or T-shirts. That happens too, but more and more we're seeing the frequency rise in these types of fundraisers. Therein, we're seeing the frequency of errors rise as well, just due to the volume of those fundraisers that are out there. Handful of years ago now, I think it's been about 4 or 5 years, we developed, the district developed a procedure and a reg regarding crowdsourced fundraisers. And there's documentation that has to be obtained, approvals prior to it happening. I think there's still a learning curve on that. It's evident in a handful of these that you'll see. I think it was echoed in a handful of them. So it's something that is trained on in monthly bookkeeper meetings, things like that. So I think you'll see some improvement over time, but that's what I attribute it to, is just the increase in frequency of those items.
Thank you.
You bet. Okay, move on to the next. I kind of put these in chronological order. So here on your list is the 49 unannounced cash counts and safe inventories. That's something I would like to ask if I could in this instance, since we're here. Since I've completed, my team and I completed those. We did 80 visits. So every campus, every magnet received a visit from us, an unannounced visit with a cash count. We inventoried their safe. We completed that survey with the bookkeepers and really compiled some wonderful data that I presented back to those bookkeepers so it could be a learning for them at the end of the year. I wanted to ask for feedback, I guess, to how, if you're happy with that process, or if you would like the communication. I would imagine you would like the communication to be a little different. As the year progressed, I'm thinking of providing a summary once a month or more charts, things like that. Again, it was a work in progress first year to do that. I produced those memos because each principal receives their own memo for their own review. But I'm happy to go in and on top of that provide kind of a summary of the month, if you would. I don't know if that would be more appreciated than getting 12 pages or 15 pages.
Yeah, I'd say personally, I think if there's a way to summarize that
Sure.
into a more condensed version. And I think from my perspective, it'd be interesting to see, well, what are the common things
Most
that I'm sure you have data on?
I do,
that
for
say,
sure.
These are the top 2 or 3 things that we need to really, in the next year, make sure people train on, or whatever it might be. Because, yeah, I mean, you could go through each one of these
sure.
individually and try to find that, but I think it would be good to see, okay, here's a summary, what are our lessons learned, and what is our action in general? We don't need to know each specific school, but just here are the things that rose to the top that we're seeing that we need to focus on.
I have those here today if you'd like to discuss that, but that was my plan. I was cautiously optimistic to even get all 80 completed within the school year. So I was thrilled to be able to, I have a really great go-getter for my audit technician. She's been hustling. And so I was able to complete those. It's my plan to get that summary to you before the end of the school year. I was just hustling on to do conflict of interest. So I'm glad to hear that. And thank you for your patience as I figured out that process this year. We have some ideas. Obviously, we're not going to do the same thing every year. It would become redundant. And so with some visits, as well as tweaking it to look at some other things from our findings. So I'll do my best to get you a summary for the year of those kind of hot topics, things that came up, as well as what we're looking forward in the future for those without giving too much away. Yep.
I had one question.
Sure.
It does look like, reading over some of them, that one of the biggest infringements, I'm not sure if that's the right word or not, but
Sure.
it's late deposits of
Yes,
checks.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So I don't know, why do you think that is?
It's a multifaceted issue, I would say. It starts from how checks get to the bookkeeper and eventually to the bank in the first place. So depending on the student, they have it in their backpack. Mom writes the check, dad writes the check. Less and less do we write checks, but and some are very responsible and turn it in that morning with the same day as mom wrote it. Others, it sits in their backpack for 2 weeks. Finally, they fish it out of there. So the time starts ticking the second the date is written on that check. The second mom writes that check at home and rips it out, and that date, the written date on the check, is what starts the clock, essentially. So the student has it, the teacher has it. It depends on the time of year. You'll see a lot of these untimely deposits span over a holiday or a weekend, or definitely summer. So many of our high school groups, band, spirit, athletics, they're active all summer long, but the bookkeeper is not on contract, So there's things there. We do our best to notate that. While it is still untimely, money needs to get to the bank and clear before a check becomes stale and the bank won't cash it or negotiate it. But we give them a little grace, understanding that they physically don't have somebody there to make that deposit. But what we're really, the part that we can control, we can't unfortunately control the kiddo. It is what it is. Kids are going to turn it right in, or they're going to turn it in 2 weeks later or lose it or whatever. That's kind of the out of control part. The control that we have is 2 parts. One, our teachers, when they do collect money from students, they need to, as quickly as possible, the documentation requires them within 3 days of the end of an event. So there's some terminology there, but within days, they're supposed to collect everything and make a deposit, not hold on to it. We can tell through our systems often when teachers are holding on to money once they've received it for weeks and weeks and weeks in their desk, or in a locked, some of them have safes, a variety of things. And then we can tell once those funds are prepared and they go to the bookkeeper. Then another clock starts ticking, if you would. And so that bookkeeper has to deposit within the week, is what the guidance says. And some keep them in their safe for weeks and weeks and weeks, for a variety of reasons. And so when it's all said and done, that's how months can go by. It's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing to fix, for sure. I'll say you'd be surprised. It's harder at an elementary school or a slower school with less money coming in, it's easier for them to kind of wait because they think, well, I'll get another deposit and then make it worth my time. That's what we hear a lot. Versus a high school, they are running and gunning. They don't have time. They have multiple deposits every day, you know. So we see it actually kind of at the smaller, quieter size campuses where things get a little slow, if you would. It's a constant battle. We encourage them all the time, but yes, ma'am. Hopefully that.
Do they have to physically go to the bank to make the deposits if they have
No.
checks?
No, ma'am. NEPD comes around every day and picks up money, makes a run for them. They compile it all, it goes to NEPD, and then the armored car comes and takes it to the bank for us. So we have a process for that. Yeah. In fact, they're not allowed to take any money to the bank.
What is a cafeteria deposit? Because don't you buy your lunch online, or do some people still
Some
bring
people
checks?
pay in checks or cash, yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
okay,
And
all
so they have a little plastic, they have their till at the end of the day, they package it up. Sometimes it might be $1, $10, $12, and it comes over and is on hold in the campus safe every day. They deliver it over and then those get picked up. Similarly, yeah. High schools, it might be a few $100s, surprisingly, yeah.
This isn't related to any specific audit, but sometimes we see weird things in safes, like foreign currency. What's the procedure for getting those things out?
Specifically foreign currency or just the odd things in general?
Both.
Okay. I'm working currently with budget and finance because there is not in writing a policy on how to handle foreign currency. So unfortunately, I can't answer that for you, but it has been it's a work in progress that I'm encouraging them to put that in writing to determine what we need to do with our bank to get that out of here and get it exchanged. So more to come on that. I'm working on it. In general, I can give you kind of my opinion. I'm happy to, in this case, give you my opinion on why there's weird things in safes. And I think it's all for good intent. I think administrators, if they have something that's valuable or they feel that needs to be kept safe, I think a lot of times people think put it in the safe versus lock it somewhere else. And some of our safes in these campuses are little bitty boxes, like 12 by 12. And there's a handful of things that need to be in there. Checks, negotiable instruments, money. And you know, I'm pointing it out, my team is pointing it out because it's not a good control environment to have multiple people in and out of the safe where there's money and checks coming and getting, oh, let me pick up Johnny's phone that we locked in here. It's not the best environment for that. So I've had good communication with a variety, with school administration, with PD, for some of these items that have been kept inside, that it's definitely could be in the administrator's office in a specific locked cabinet. You know, there's other places, but I don't think it's for any nefarious reasons. It's just a gut reaction to just put it in the safe so it'll be safe, and then it kind of gets forgotten about a lot of the time. But they're encouraged, I think, to. I've encouraged the bookkeepers to have a little bit of gusto to say, "Hey, administrator, is there anywhere else you can put this?" You know, it's tough. It's tough sometimes to kind of give that pushback, but to try to control that safe as much as they can and keep it a safe environment for the money. So,
I'm curious as to why they would even accept foreign currency.
there's two cases that I know of. One is ISA. They actually get for our International School of America. They historically, when they travel overseas, the students, it's part of their curriculum, and they ahead of time get foreign currency before they travel to the variety of countries that they've been to. So when they come home, they inevitably have some left. it's historical. It's been in the safe for quite some time because those trips have not happened since COVID, since pre-COVID. And I think there's just a handful there that is left over from these trips that it just needs to be deposited. They kept it for a while thinking maybe they would travel again to those destinations and they could use it again, but they don't foresee that. Another one is a bag of coin, like random, like that would be in your change, and then, oh, there's a peso instead of a quarter or whatever. And it's over years, this has just been like a bag of foreign coin that has built up and built up and built up. So it's not, it's very unique instances, yeah, that we would have it. So we just need to clean it out and be done with it. We'll get there. Yeah, I'm figuring out a plan. Okay.
Any other questions on that one?
Hopefully, I'll definitely send you a summary, and I think it'll provide you more versus going over it all today. I'm happy to do that.
Perfect.
Okay, next in line, Garner Middle School. This similarly, last year we just didn't have time to finish everything to get this one in. So they were new bookkeeper and principal prior year. So it was high on our priority this year to go ahead and give them a visit. So new key personnel change is what caused us to go visit. I think you'll see similarly kind of some timing issues. I'll say in this they've had some good coaching and good plans in motion for additional training to get where they need to be. So I can talk more in detail if you need it. But
So when there are things that are brought to their attention.
Yes, ma'am.
And I saw that you had strategies in place that look like good strategies.
Mm-hmm.
What's the follow-up on your part to be sure that it's improved?
for sure. So these, now that I have my team on this good rotation, our campus visits can look at some of these things very targetedly. That's kind of my plan for next year. Specifically for years now, you've seen similar findings that come up quite often: scanning of documentation, lack, the untimeliness of things. All of those common findings, we can spot check very easily with a campus audit, with a cash count, one of those unannounced cash counts. We do a little pre-work ahead of time. We don't just show up. We scour through their books. We look through their DocuWare, their scanning, to kind of get a sense of where they are, and look historically at any reports to know if there's anything specific we need to ask about. So we can definitely target in those situations, and we can do clear follow-up, like a true 6-month out, year out follow-up as needed. I also go in, depending on the findings, I can look and essentially do a desk audit, if you would, is what we call it, where I'm just in their financials, I'm in the software, looking for specific things without needing to involve them per se, just to do some spot checking along the way. So that happens quite often throughout the year.
So is this one that you're going to follow up on?
Yes, ma'am, as well as, I'd say, coupled with everything I just said there, I work closely with budget and finance. In these instances, they receive all of my reports, and they go out quite often and do kind of a retraining. In a couple of these, that has already occurred. Kind of from the results of the audit, they take a couple of folks, go out for a few hours and do some retraining as well. So I know in a couple of instances that has been the case as well. So we kind of couple up in that way. Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then the last one was Madison High School, as well as the agri-science program. We went ahead and had the time to pull in the magnet as well. This one, again, key personnel change. The bookkeeper retired last year, new bookkeeper now. So that was and it was their turn to kind of, high schools always are on a rotation, if you would, just for the sheer volume of money and everything that goes through those campuses. So that was the reasoning for the review, and I did my best to delineate, obviously, between Madison and the magnet, as well as kind of the time frame between two bookkeepers. Again, we're looking at a overlap of 2 school years. I think that's all we could probably talk about out of here. All right, so that's the basic details of those. Just to finish through my list before we go back if we need to. Next, always continuous monitoring, like I mentioned, of the fraud hotline. We have a couple of 2 instances that were handled. Nothing came of them. I did some basic research for a few days, and they were a non-event, if you would. But so everything's fine. But we can talk about that later if you'd like. And then I'll go ahead and finish out for the work in progress. Right now, we're in the ending stages of our annual inventory of assets. So the controlled resource management system, that's all of our computers, everything has an asset tag that our procurement department tracks and monitors throughout the year. So we go secondarily to their review they do each year, and we pull a sample from every org, every department, every campus, and pound the pavement. And this is the scavenger hunt that I always talk about, that we go out and look for items. That is being completed now. We're actually, I think, have a handful of departments left, and the testing is done on that. So you should see the report coming soon there. New in our work this year, career and technology, the career and technical education department, that has begun. We worked closely with we had a good opening meeting with the new senior director, not so new anymore, been there all this year, but and to really partner and to see if there's anything now that they have been there through nine months, most of the school year, if there's anything that they would like us to assist, look at, things that they're learning about the department that maybe we could assist with, as well as typical things that we would look at for departments. So this is kind of an advisory, a consultative role, as well as financial, looking under the eyes of cost containment, looking at their travel, their expenditures, to look at we could look at the career and tech department all year long. They're massive with lots of ins and outs. So we have to narrow our scope to be able to do that. It would take us all year to review everything they do. So we kind of focused on, obviously we always choose expenditures. We're looking at a variety of different ways through their purchasing, as well as travel, and then inventory. We're doing the inventory now. He had some very specific asks for that, as well as some hope to make some improvements in that area, and he wanted our opinion on that. So it's been fun it's kind of the fun part of audit when we do a brand new department that we don't have an audit program for, and believe it or not, you can be kind of creative in an audit world, if you would, and think of different ways to review and analyze a department. So it's been a nice project to kick off. It's going to be a couple of months, and then you'll get the report on that. The annual conflict of interest review that happens for our employees every year. That's a standard review that I perform. I'm in the thick of it now. We're 2 weeks in. Right before I came down, I checked our results, and I'm sitting at 74% of our responses. We still have a week to go. And I haven't sent out my last reminder. That every time I send a reminder, then I get a flood of information that comes in. So it's looking great, having good responses, and tweaking it as I go, making it more automated, learning every year, and doing a lot of training. So that's going well. It'll be finished up in the next few weeks once I get those results in. And then you see a last one here. This happens sometimes. Hopefully you're not alarmed seeing paused, the word pause there. Sometimes our work has to pause due to just time requirements. Some audits have to be done at a certain period of time during the year. For example, conflict of interest. That has to be done before staff goes off contract for the summer. As well, the inventory. We need to be able to have everybody here looking for inventory. So our adult and community ed, we were right to the end. We just had a handful of sampling left, but I just needed to pull the plug for a bit, push pause to get these other things done before the end of the school year. The auditee understands why. We educate them about that, and there's nothing wrong. It's just we need to pause for a moment. So as soon as we finish that inventory, that'll pick back up and finish. That was a big project that they had to get some. It was delayed a bit in all transparency just due to compiling documentation that some was not scanned and available to us. So we had to wait a bit, but we'll get that one finished before the end of the year, and that will complete the audit plan. As always, we do the inventories coming up. That's in our warehouse. That's something that we do for the executive audit, the auditors, the external auditors, excuse me, as well as the confirmations. And I'll be developing the plan for next year, and it'll start all over again. So that's where we're sitting so far for this year.
For the adult and community ed.
Yes, sir.
One that paused, when you say end of year, do you mean end of this school year? Or
Yes.
end of fiscal year or end
Fiscal
of,
year, yes. Well, I think my best estimate, we'll have that report by the end of June. I mean,
Okay.
fiscal year for sure, yes.
Okay.
But it won't be school year, most likely, maybe. Yeah, close.
June's good.
June, yes, yes.
All right. Any other questions for Mrs. Shoesmith?
I know it was a lot. We've been
Well, thank
busy.
you. Thank you for going with the flow on the
Of course, of
the
course.
delays. I know we
Yeah.
were supposed to have this probably a month ago.
No worries, no worries.
Glad we were able
I
to
always stay
finally
ready
get it.
just in case, so not a big deal.
So, all right, without any other questions, where am I? The board will now adjourn into executive session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Section 551.072, purchase, exchange, lease, or value of property pursuant, oh, sorry, I just read that. And Government Code 551.074 to discuss personnel or to hear complaints against personnel, and the time is 6:03 p.m. All right. The board will now reconvene in open session, and the time is 7:40 p.m. Do I have a motion to approve Executive Director of Northeast Education Foundation as discussed in executive session?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Villarreal. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Landry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion passes 6-0. Item number 5, adjournment, and the time is 7:41 p.m.